I believed you were a good boy. If you refuse, then I'll have to retrieve it myself.
What?
My son.
The tragedy of Geppetto is not found in a simple desire for power or a thirst for malice, but rather in the suffocating, unyielding weight of a father's grief. When we look upon the shattered remains of Krat, we see a city destroyed by the mechanical uprising of puppets. But when we look at Geppetto, we see a man who destroyed his own soul long before the first gear ever turned in his workshop. Geppetto did not view the protagonist, P, as a new life or a unique entity to be cherished. Instead, he viewed him as a vessel, a hollow and ornate shell meant to hold the ghost of a son he could not, or would not, let go. This is the ultimate sin of the parent, the absolute refusal to allow the dead to rest in peace, and the parallel refusal to allow the living to exist as their own person. Geppetto's love for the original Carlo was real, a raw and human emotion, but by the time we meet him, that love has fermented into an obsession so toxic that it required the systematic sacrifice of an entire civilization to satisfy its hunger. He did not want a son. He wanted a reflection, a perfect mirror held up to the past to hide the reality of his loss. Throughout the journey, Geppetto operates as a master manipulator, a puppet master who doesn't just pull strings of wire, but strings of emotion and gaslighting. He praises P for being a good boy, but that praise is never for P's bravery or his emerging kindness. It is a reward for P acting most like a mindless, obedient machine. To Geppetto, every step P takes toward humanity is a step away from his intended purpose. He sought to erase the very thing that made P special, the burgeoning spark of an independent soul, all to resurrect a memory that had long since faded into the abyss. This obsession blinded him to the miracles standing right in front of him. He was so focused on the son, he lost that he was willing to murder the son he had accidentally created. The tragedy is that Geppetto's love was entirely conditional, a transactional affection that demanded the erasure of P's identity in exchange for a place in a father's heart. As the creator of the Grand Covenant, Geppetto was the architect of Krat's salvation and its ultimate damnation. He used the city as a laboratory for his grief, indifferent to the thousands of lives snuffed out by the frenzy, as long as the resulting ergo could be harvested to fuel his grand design. His betrayal in the final act is not a sudden turn, but the natural conclusion of a life spent prioritizing the dead over the living. When he demands P's heart, he is asking for the literal and metaphorical center of P's existence, proving that to Geppetto, P was never a person, only a collection of spare parts for a ghost. This cold, calculating disregard for P's consciousness is what makes his character so deeply polarizing. He is a man driven by love, yes, but it is a love that has become a weapon, a sharp, jagged edge that cuts the very hands that try to hold it. The silence of Geppetto in the moments leading up to the final choice is deafening. He stands there, expectant, as if the sacrifice of a conscious being is a minor inconvenience in his quest for a family reunion. He represents the danger of a mind that cannot move past what was to see what is. By the time we reach the end of Part 1, we realize that Geppetto is the true villain of the narrative, not because he is a monster of metal, but because he is a monster of the heart. He is the man who would burn the world to stay warm by the memory of a fire that went out years ago. His brilliance as an alchemist and an engineer only served to provide him with the tools to manifest his madness on a grand scale, turning a personal tragedy into a universal catastrophe. He is the architect of grief, and the structure he built was a cage for a boy who only wanted to be loved for who he was, not who he replaced.
Were you going to destroy Carlos? heart!
What makes Geppetto's betrayal truly spiteful is the undeniable, overwhelming evidence of P's evolution that the old man chooses to ignore until the very last second. Throughout the long, blood-soaked journey across the streets of Krat, P is not an AI simply following a rigid script or a series of pre-programmed directives. He is a conscious mind experiencing fear, confusion, joy, and the heavy, often painful burden of empathy. He is a creature that learns to lie not because he is broken, but because he is becoming human. He feels the weight of the lies he tells to comfort the dying women in the windows. He feels the warmth and the inexplicable pull of the music playing on the gramophone in the safety of Hotel Krat. He develops a bond with the people around him, Antonia, Sophia, and even the cat that initially hissed at his cold, metallic scent. Yet, Geppetto looks at these genuine displays of emotion and sees them as nothing more than obstacles or errors in the code. To Geppetto, P's ability to lie is not a sign of a blossoming soul, but a glitch in the programming that needs to be purged to make room for the original Carlo. This is the crux of the debate regarding whether Geppetto deserved his fate. His spite lies in his refusal to acknowledge the life he accidentally birthed. He looked a sentient, loving, and fiercely protective being in the eye and told him, through his actions and his demands, that he was essentially nothing. He was willing to harvest the organs and the distilled ergo of the very creature that had fought through hell to protect him, showing that his paternal love was entirely conditional. He loved the idea of his dead son more than the reality of the child standing right in front of him, bleeding and breathing in every way that mattered. While P was growing into a person, Geppetto was regressing into a monster of obsession. He treated P's consciousness as a byproduct of a machine, a temporary side effect that would be discarded once the real boy returned. This dismissal of P's agency is a profound cruelty. It is the denial of existence to someone who has fought harder for their humanity than any natural-born human in the city. The spite in Geppetto's decision-making is highlighted by the contrast between his intellectual brilliance and his emotional stuntedness. He is the most brilliant mind in Krat, capable of understanding the deepest secrets of alchemy and puppet mechanics, yet he is incapable of recognizing the spark of life in his own creation. He chose to remain blind. He chose to see a tool where there was a person. When he realized that P's heart had developed enough human warmth to sustain Carlo's soul, he didn't rejoice in P's growth. He salivated at the opportunity to take it. This is not the action of a grieving father. It is the action of a scavenger. He spent the entire game manipulating P's desire for a father's approval, using the most sacred bond between a parent and child as a lure to lead P to the slaughterhouse. Every word of encouragement was a lie, every smile a mask, and every well done was merely a checkmark on a list of requirements for a sacrifice. Ultimately, Geppetto's decisions were rendered spiteful by the fact that he knew better. He saw P's tears, he heard P's heartbeat, and he watched P defy the grand covenant for the sake of others. He knew P was alive, but he decided that P's life was worth less than a ghost's. This is why his death feels like the only logical conclusion to his narrative arc. He could not coexist with a son who had a will of his own, because a son with a will could say no. And in Geppetto's world, only his voice, and the voice of the son he lost, were ever allowed to matter. By the time we reach the end of this struggle, we realize that Geppetto was never looking for a son to love. He was looking for a son to control. He wanted to play God, but he lacked the compassion to understand the divinity of the soul he had actually created. He deserved the end he received because he refused to love the son who was there, choosing instead to chase a shadow that could never love him back. In those final, staggering moments, as the smoke of the battlefield clears and P holds his creator in his arms, the tragedy of lies of P reaches its devastating conclusion. Geppetto's last words are not the venomous curse of a defeated villain. nor are they the cold calculations of a scientist. They are a profound, heart-shattering realization of his own blindness. He spent his entire life and sacrificed the lives of thousands, trying to manufacture a soul through alchemy and steel, never realizing that he had already inspired one to grow through his own absence. As P's tears fall upon Geppetto's face, the old man finally sees it. The spark, the warmth, the humanity that he had tried so desperately to deny. In his dying breath, he acknowledges that P was a good boy. But the meaning has shifted. It is no longer the praise of a master to a tool. It is the recognition of a father to a son. The question of whether Geppetto deserved it finds its answer in this silence. In the cold logic of justice and morality, yes, his crimes against the city of Krat and his psychological torture of P were insurmountable. He was a mass murderer, a gaslighter, and a man who would have hollowed out a living being to fill a void in his own heart. But in the lens of the narrative, his death is not just a punishment. It is the only way for P to truly be born. By dying, Geppetto finally stops being the puppet master. His passing severs the last remaining string, allowing P to exist as an individual rather than a mere extension of a father's wounded ego. P's decision to hold him, to show him genuine kindness and grief even after the betrayal, is the final and absolute proof that P was always the better man. P achieved a level of emotional maturity that Geppetto, with all his brilliance, could never reach. This final embrace is the most human moment in the entire game. It highlights the mercy of the end. Geppetto deserved to lose his life for the chaos he wrought, but perhaps in that final breath of clarity, he finally earned the title of father that he had so poorly occupied. He dies knowing he was wrong, and in a world built on lies and clockwork, that sudden, piercing truth is the only grace he has left. He realized too late that Carlo was gone, but P was right there. A son who loved him enough to mourn him even as he died from the consequences of his own spite. Geppetto's death is the closing of a dark chapter, a sacrifice that finally allows the cycle of obsession to break. He fell into the arms of the miracle he refused to see, finding a peaceful rest in the hands of the boy who was more than just a puppet. Ultimately, Geppetto's story is a warning about the nature of love and control. He shows us that when love becomes an obsession with the past, it loses the ability to nourish the present. He died a failure in his grand experiment, but a success in a way he never intended. He created a being capable of unconditional forgiveness. P's journey ends with a heavy heart, but a free one. The creator is gone, the strings are cut, and for the first time, the boy who was meant to be a vessel is simply himself. Geppetto's legacy is a city in ruins and a son in tears, a tragic monument to the man who tried to play God and only succeeded in becoming a memory. He deserved the end, but he also deserved the mercy P showed him, for it was that mercy that proved the real boy was real all along.
Sorry.